Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. Join me today. We are going to discuss the mask issue, and I want to talk about with you my calculus, the way I'm thinking about things, and perhaps we can use this as a sounding board to coming to a better understanding of what a good constitutional worldview, one that recognizes individual freedom and liberty as sacrosanct. So it is the first duty of every intelligent man to state the obvious, and the obvious point worth stating at this juncture in the road: we are in an election year. Do not underestimate this fact. The election year dynamics, anything that can be politicized will be politicized. Anything that can hyperpolarize and divide people to get them to take up their fighting lines is going to be hyperpoliticized and polarized. I have worn masks in my professional career in various different settings for various different reasons. So wearing a mask for me is not an issue of whether or not it's sound medical practice. From everything that I have learned, seen, read, and witnessed and lived in my nursing career, mask wearing does indeed cut down on the transmission of disease. Now, don't kill the messenger. I'm going different places with this. So mask wearing does indeed decrease droplet transmission, although with varying effectiveness based on the material used in said mask. The issue is, though, no matter how good an idea is, no matter how well substantiated, how logical, how scientifically valid it is, the second that government threat of force or coercion comes into the mix, it becomes a bad idea. Threat of violence and coercion and heavy-handedness on the part of governments is never appropriate, and it's never a good thing. Because we, the people in the United States, a constitutional and representative republic, maintain liberty and rights. We do not have a government that nannies us. We are the government, and we are free people. So no matter how good an idea that mask wearing is, the second that government takes it upon itself to make this a prerequisite for doing business, a prerequisite for conducting normal affairs on a person's private property, now we have an issue. So let me juxtapose here a couple of things right now. The independent initiatives of a private property and business owner versus state mandates, government mandates, and mandates in any government form. As the backbone of English law and our constitutional law is essentially the recognition that a man is king of his castle. Private property rights are sacrosanct. The property that you hold, you have absolute dictatorial control over, or at least you should. Now, I recognize that we live in a fallen world where the reality is often not the case. If a business owner, especially a small business owner, has a required set of expectations on dress code, for instance, or behavior in their premises, we have a voluntary, consensual agreement to do business based on each of our own consent to abide by the laws that we deem governing for that contract. So for instance, if I go to a lovely restaurant and they have a certain dress code, I agree that in order to partake of their services or the products that they serve there, that I will abide by their requirements, which is to dress accordingly. So a property owner is well within their rights to request a person behave in a certain way on their premises. If it is a mask, or it is to wear a mask on their property, I have the freedom to either reject their requirements and not consent to doing business with them and choose to do business elsewhere where I do have a set of requirements that I'm comfortable with, or I can agree to those requirements. But again, this is the backbone here of basic business. You have two parties that are voluntarily and consensually dealing with each other in the agreed upon terms. If at any time neither one of us likes the way the other is doing things, we can mutually agree to sever ties and not do business anymore. So it's well within a private property owner's purview to mandate that an individual seeking their services mask up going in there. You have the choice whether or not you want to do business with them. You don't want to do business with them, don't do business with them. If you don't care, then whatever, just respect what they require. The difference is when you have the state or the government mandating things and putting stumbling blocks and obstacles in the way of two consenting individuals conducting business together when no other people are being harmed. And you cannot, no matter how much people want to twist this, you cannot quantify discernible and concrete, provable bodily harm by not wearing masks. You cannot do it. You know why? Because we don't live in a safe world. So no matter how much I want to be safe from the big scary world outside, it doesn't matter if it's one person who has a mask or doesn't have a mask. Eventually, we are all going to be confronted with infectious disease. That is part of being human. If you don't like it, then don't perpetuate the next generation. No one is guaranteed safety in this world. That is the trade-off that we have with life. You cannot have a perfectly secure life and freedom at the same time. The government that can keep you safe from everything can also take everything from you. So for that reason, I am not in favor of mask mandates in any form by any institution of government. If, however, private property owners deem that it is in their best interest and the interest of their patrons to require that an individual meets a certain dress code when they come in to the establishment, that's well within their purview. And it's up to us as consumers to determine whether or not we deem the product worthwhile in order to comply with the requests. Voluntary agreement here. Voluntary. So do you see here how there's a difference between the state or the government mandating a particular behavior versus private property rights? One is coercive force from the top down. The other puts people on an equal footing. Business owner says you must wear a mask if you want to come in and partake of our services or products. You as a person who have 100% control over where you spend your money say, I choose to agree to your terms, or nope, I don't want to do that. That's the difference here. The difference is behavior that is consensual and voluntary versus behavior that is coerced and behavior that is based on the threat of violence. And you could say, oh, well, there's no violence threatening people who don't wear masks. Really? What would you call these excessive fines? I would also call that a major issue for excessive fines and cruel and unusual punishment. I mean, now you've got a Bill of Rights issue here. Is it really considered a fair fine when you're fining people thousands of dollars a day for not wearing masks? I submit absolutely not. I think that's a gross violation of a person's constitutional rights and their civil rights. So really, when it comes right down to it, do I think wearing masks is a helpful thing in certain instances in order to slow the spread of various diseases? Yes, I do. Do I think that it merits a government mandate to force people into compliance? Absolutely not. Do I think that it is within the purview of private property owners to make certain rules as to the conduct in their store on their property which they own? Absolutely. Absolutely. And for that reason, I am a big believer that the market will bear these things out. If the government would butt out and leave people well enough alone, the market would bear these things out, because eventually human beings learn. Now, the point that you could make is that, oh, we haven't reached herd immunity yet. I love it when people bring up herd immunity. It just, so few people really understand it. I submit to you the reason why all these attempts are going around, not only for the masks, but there are multiple things at play here. Fear and chaos and panic and mistrust of citizenry against each other. That plays right into the hands of government powers that want to consolidate and expand central government. That's never a good thing for people, ever. Never throughout history has that proven to be beneficial for people. Certainly not in the long term. The other point is that there's a lot of money to be made. A lot of money to be made through the selling of certain injection-based items. And it is in the interest of a lot of this money potentially to be made for people to stay at home, have their immune systems wither away into nothing because they're not being stimulated, and essentially soften people up, make them inactive, let their guts rot out because they're not being ambulatory. Like, people are getting very sick. People are getting very sick, and they're getting fat, and they're getting overweight by staying at home, by not moving around, and by not being active. Their mental health is suffering because they're not going places. So really, when it comes right down to it, major, very strong powers that stand to make a whole lot of money and consolidate a whole lot of power, they benefit immensely by the chaos that's being sown. And they benefit immensely by getting people so terrified and so afraid of their own shadow that they don't want to go out and live or interact with people. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it is my opinion that it is the right and duty of each individual to determine what is in his or her own best health interest. In the same way that I would advocate for a patient having informed consent and the right to dictate which procedures they undertook or elected to waive, it is definitely the right of a person to determine whether or not wearing a mask is in his or her own best interest. It is not appropriate for a person to say, because I choose to wear a mask or I choose not to wear a mask, that this private property owner has to see things my way. No, absolutely not. If you don't like what their requirements are, then go shop somewhere else. Conversely, if you don't like their policy and it's in conflict with yours, then you can elect again to go shop somewhere else. The issue comes when we get a lot of activist moms, particularly. Not that all women are bad, God forbid. I do happen to be one of them. Yes. The issue comes when we get a lot of the hen house surrounding businesses and demanding, moms demand action, that sort of thing. That doesn't have a place. If you believe in freedom, it's the right of each individual to determine his or her own course in life. It is the right of property owners to determine which behavior they want in their establishment and what their dress code is, if any. It is not within the purview of government to dictate the terms for consensual and non-harming behavior between two consenting parties doing business. This is why I am opposed to government-based mandates of masks, but I support unequivocally the right of property owners to determine the appropriate behavior in and on their premises. And I also unequivocally support the right of an individual to choose whether or not he or she deems wearing a mask is appropriate for them. When in doubt, choose freedom. When in doubt, choose freedom. Not safety, freedom. When in doubt, choose freedom. I have a shirt, by the way, for sale down there below if you're interested in that. I like that one. When in doubt, choose freedom. Makes it real simple. Makes it real simple because freedom throughout history is the singular most precious commodity. Not safety, freedom. I hope it was helpful for y'all. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to me here on YouTube. You can also support me on Patreon, Subscribestar, Cryptocurrency, and PayPal. I got links in the description box below. I appreciate y'all. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Let's keep loving on people. Keep being positive and kind towards people. Mask or no mask, I don't care. Be kind. Be kind. The world is short on kindness, y'all. We need it. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.